Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. This is episode 306, bringing you the latest and greatest gaming news of the past week. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and it never ceases to amaze me how every week I seem to forget how to do the intro. But yeah, so welcome back, everybody. Had a bit of a break last week because we were camping. Light news week this week. I really had to go digging for some news. So might be a little bit on the lighter side and like not really some big, not really a lot of big news out there. And really it came down to like finding some topics this morning. Normally I try and find topics as the week goes on. But really like the start of the week in particular was just not a lot of really interesting stuff. But we did get there. So hope everyone's had a great week. Heat's finally broken. So now we can all get back to actually enjoying the summer, at least here in the Northeast. I don't know, wherever else you are. If that's not the case, I'm sorry. And apologize for the late start. For those who are watching live, it was just having to wrangle kiddos this morning. So to give my wife a little bit of a break so that she could sleep in a bit, get some rest. So that said, why don't we get right into our news topics for the week? So first up, IGN reports that Bethesda Game Studio is the first Microsoft development studio to fully unionize. Microsoft has recognized the union, which is around 231 employees, and was filed under the Communication Workers of America, which seems to be sort of the overall umbrella that a lot of these game development studios fall under. So this is a big deal where it's like across the whole studio. So normally we've seen like individual teams kind of go for unionization of like the QA department has been a big one. Maybe development. But you haven't traditionally seen a lot of like the art team or marketing or anything like that. And this is a company-wide spanning one. I think this is great. I think more companies should follow suit. Do the whole company. And yeah, Microsoft has said for like Activision, Blizzard, if they're still called, I don't know if they like split them up now that they're all under Microsoft, but yeah, that it will recognize any of those unions, that it's not going to stop any sort of progress. So hopefully we see a lot more of this, not just at Microsoft, but also elsewhere. So congratulations to the folks at Bethesda Game Studio. And hopefully their next step is to negotiate a contract with Microsoft. So best of luck to that. And hopefully others will follow suit. Next up, Wizards of the Coast has announced that the 2024 Player's Handbook, which is releasing like full public releases on September 16th, I believe. But it will be available for sale as like an early release at Gen Con. So for folks who are going to Gen Con, you will be able to buy the book. So sadly I will not be. But yeah, I'm also gonna go for the alt covers. So I'm gonna pick them up from my local shop. But yeah, 6 weeks early for Gen Con attendees. That's kind of a big deal. Uh, so yeah, which also means, folks, that if you think there's still time to like make changes, if you weren't happy about some things with your current class, like there's no, the books have already been printed. Like there's no time to make changes to stuff. Uh, so yeah, so for Gen Con attendees, you will be able to pick it up. Next up, GameSpot reports that Fortnite's Cursed Sales pass is now live. So this is a Pirates of the Caribbean sort of crossover event. It will include your typical like skins, and I think the big reward is like I don't, it said Jack Sparrow's ship, so I don't know if they mean the Black Pearl, but like a pirate ship glider, but then also some minifigs for Lego Fortnite. Um, so kind of your typical content. It will have, your usual paid and unpaid rewards. So that pass is available until August 6th. Next up, Polygon reports that according to an ESRB filing, that Link will be playable in The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. There wasn't really a lot of elaboration on what that means from the ESRB. So people are speculating all sorts of like what that could mean. My take, and I have no basis for this, but I would imagine that you might do like you might play Link as like in the prologue that they showed in the trailer of like Link fighting through a dungeon before Zelda takes over. My guess is that you might play Link for that, and then Zelda takes over. Maybe there might be other like short sequences where you flip back to Link and he's in whatever trap dimension or something. But yeah, I mean it's the ESRB listed it just for the gameplay elements, so there's not really any indication of how long or what the scope of Link's gameplay will be in this game. So my hope is that it's kind of minimal. It's also like I did see some theories running around of like it might be like a post game thing of like once you beat the game, then like you can go back and play as Link through the whole thing. I don't know. Um, so we'll see. But yeah, my guess is that maybe like a prologue and epilogue, um, or little short sequences. So next up, Games Radar reports that cult classic JRPG for the Game Boy Advance, Riviera: The Promised Land, has gotten a like remaster released on Steam, and I think it's out now. Let me just double check that. It is, yeah, looks like it's out now with a 20% discount. Oh, I also, oh wait, no, that's the initial date. Okay. Uh, oh, so it says here Nintendo Switch also. So what? Oh, it's out on the Switch in Japan. Okay. But yeah, it's on Steam, $27.99. With like all sorts of quality of life features and like an HD remake type thing. Yeah, this was like a weird sort of late uh, game that came out like late in the GBA's lifespan. I don't remember much of it. I kind of played it because like I was thirsty for like a lot of RPGs, um, and at the time, like it was difficult to get if you were a Nintendo fan because like there wasn't a lot for the GameCube, and I think I had most of what was available for the GameCube. So really, like it was all on the GBA, and there was only so much Golden Sun and Final Fantasy Tactics Advance that one could play. I mean, I also had the Kingdom Hearts, whatever the GBA game that came out for that, but it was like a weird card battler type game. Um, so yeah, this I found particularly interesting because I was just looking at my game on the shelf and going like, huh, I still have all my GBAs. I should charge one up and maybe get back to maybe like check this out and go back to playing it sometime or whatever. And then it was uh like a week or two went by and then like this news dropped and I was like, "Oh, well, that is pretty funny." So, uh yeah, that's very exciting. So if you are a JRPG fan, I would encourage you to check this out. Um so it had some interesting gameplay elements, I recall. Um I just don't recall a lot of it cuz it's like from 20 years ago. Uh so yeah. So out now on Steam. Finally, our last story, IGN reports that the FTC has released a statement that Game Pass's new price, like their price increase and the new price tiers, uh, are just blatant product degradation, which is something that it warned against during the Activision Blizzard sort of acquisition hearings, like the antitrust legislation. Um, So the FTC has basically not minced its words in any regard and came out swinging and said, like, we told you this was going to happen and you said, no, we're not going to do this. And then you turned around and did it anyway. So they're probably going to file a bunch of suits. Um, so the issue is like, in an effort to prop up revenue after this acquisition, Xbox has basically shifted around some of its offerings and like what each tier offers, and locked some of its more popular titles, Call of Duty, uh, um, and maybe Battlefield. I'm trying to remember which, because like I'm trying to remember which one's EA and which one's Activision, but um, I think Call of Duty is the big one. But locking that behind its highest price tier. So like if you want to play it and you're not just buying the game outright, it's like forcing you into the highest price tier for Game Pass. Um, and then also like removing it from lower tiers. Um, so the FTC has basically called out, said like this is blatantly anti-consumer, and I don't think it would have caught any attention whatsoever if Xbox had not explicitly said like we are not going to do this during the antitrust legislation talks. Um because the FTC, kind of rightfully like saw the writing on the wall that was like you are going to spend, what was it, $60 billion or something, uh some absurd amount of money on these development studios. Like we know that you're going to try and recoup that revenue somehow, and we're gonna be in like we can guarantee that it's gonna be in some sort of anti-consumer method. Uh, and they were, Xbox has basically said, "Oh no, 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 we're not gonna do that." Uh, and then they did. So, we'll have to see what happens with this legislation. Um, And basically, like, with the price hikes, it's been because like Sony's basically done the same stuff. So it's very much like, I think the issue isn't necessarily that they're like, granted, it's, you know, it's not great increasing prices and like shifting stuff around to try and force people into the highest tier, but like that in and of itself isn't typically enough to warrant the attention of the Federal Trade Commission. It's more that if you say, again, to go back to this point, if you explicitly say you're not going to do that during a bunch of hearings and like antitrust hearings and procedures, that you then turn around to do it after the fact. So that's why I think it's just specifically Xbox that's getting called out for this, and not, you know, Sony's nonsense going on with their structure. So so yeah, I mean, that's it for the news this week. Like I said, it was a little bit of a light week. But you know, there was some good nuggets in there. You know, Bethesda unionizing is great. You know, Riviera is just a little piece of news for me. You know, and then Gen Con folks will be able to get the new player's handbook. So I'm really curious to see like how many of those PHBs get sold, because like there's a lot of folks who are interested in the new content that's being put out, or like the revised content that's being put out, but you know, the D&D community is going to be the D&D community, so there's a lot of people still bitter about like D&D Beyond removing, you know, the a la carte transactions, or people who are just like, yeah, like I don't, you know, I don't need to buy a new book for something that's gonna, you know, like, because I don't know how much is going to be revised. So it's something where if most of the book is significant revisions, then like it definitely makes it worth to buy it. But you know, if a lot of it is just like cleaning stuff up and like minor tweaks and stuff, I could definitely see an argument for people being like, yeah, I don't need this. You know, I'll just like I'll borrow a copy from the library, make whatever notes, and then like just keep using my original one. You know, especially if you already also have Tasha's, since there seems to be a lot of content that was put out as this is new content when it's just from Tasha's, like the Ranger. So, yeah. So that is going to wrap up our episode for this week. Sorry it's such a short episode, but again, like the new, kind of quick on the news, and you know, a lot of it's just very minor topics. So, thank you all for watching. If you would like to see more content from 8-Bit Adventures, be sure to check out 8-bitadventures.com. Over there, you can find comics, the podcast archives, and more. If you would like to help support that content, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/8bitadventures. I just have one Patreon for like all of my various projects, and it's done as just like a monthly thing as opposed to per post. Patrons can support for as little as $1 a month. And finally, our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. Thank you for all the listeners, all the viewers, all the patrons for your continued support. And as always, have fun, happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.